Third time's a charm. Or fourth time's a charm, whatever. Now we're on air.
Awesome. So
on a new software that keeps giving us alerts.
Yeah, well, everything hasn't broken yet. But knock on wood, it goes well. And yeah, oh goodness. Well, I feel like one way we should ease into this, because it's been a while since Fabiola and I recorded, and it will be
3 weeks.
It'll be even longer until this comes out, but we've now finally seen Barbie after talking about it for half a season about how we're excited to see Barbie.
This is a post-Barbenheimer episode.
Yes.
And I already went round 2 for Barbie, and I'm going round 2 for Oppenheimer tomorrow.
So did you you didn't actually do a double feature, watch them both at the same day?
No, I watched them in the same long weekend. I watched Barbie on opening day, and then I watched Oppenheimer on Monday, the Monday right after that.
What about you, Amparo?
That's what I did.
I watched Barbie opening weekend on a Saturday, and then I went to go watch Oppenheimer on the following, like a couple days later on Tuesday, because the cinema closest to me has half off Tuesdays. So I went to go see it in IMAX for half off on Tuesday.
Nice.
So it was very nice, I would say.
Yeah.
How about you, Saffron?
I'm really sad I didn't get to do the double feature, because I was really planning on it. Except what happened was I was in a theater production that was 10 days of rehearsal, and it was my first time doing this, and it was very exciting and fun, but I did not realize how much it would consume my life. And I was like, I cannot spend an entire day at the movie theaters, because I need to be catching up on sleep and laundry and all these things that I haven't been doing the entire week while we're in rehearsal. So I just saw Barbie on Saturday of that weekend, and it was really nice, though. That was really fun. And I did then go see Oppenheimer at this tiny little theater. It was so strange. It was not the experience I thought I would see Oppenheimer in, but I'm still glad I got to see it. So
nice.
Which day?
Oh, I don't know. It was the middle of the week. It was actually, I'm surprised. There was more people in the theater than I was expecting. Like, there was decent turnout, but yeah, it wasn't IMAX. I do kind of, I wish that there's this one theater that is used to have all of the big, I'm forgetting the kind of theater it actually is and like what kind of all the projectors that they have. But there's this beautiful theater in Seattle that has been closed for a while, and I wish I could have seen Oppenheimer in that theater, but alas, not this time. What are you guys? What do you think of the two films? Which was your favorite?
If I had to like say it really quick, like just one sentence, I enjoyed them both, but I thought Oppenheimer is a film that affected me far deeper than Barbie did. I'll say that.
That's a really good way to, I would say I agree with that sentence.
I'm the opposite. I liked Barbie slightly more than Oppenheimer. I really liked both of them.
Yeah. It is actually, like, it is not entirely fair to compare them except for all of the buzz around it, because they are such different kinds of films.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also kind of similar in very specific ways.
Oh, what ways? Like, they're both leads are are DC villains.
Both leads are like being very existential.
Oh, yeah. But
Yeah.
I watching Barbie, it was definitely true that I was like, oh yeah, this is modern day camp. Like, so truly, like, I was like, oh yeah, this is everything that we had kind of, I do think Barbie is a film down the line, and maybe a couple seasons we could do an episode of this podcast on, because
Yes.
I think there is enough there in it. And also just like the set design, everything looking like plastic. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Similar to our topic of discussion for today in terms of set design.
Yeah.
But I would love to just quickly mention the camp value of the character of Einstein in Oppenheimer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Every time he showed up, I was just cracking up because I mean, everyone's talked about it. Everyone's mentioned it, but it feels like he's a cartoon character next to actual people.
Well, and also,
even though he wasn't also an actual person, but he's just so mythologized that he doesn't feel real at this point.
Yeah.
There is also something very camp about the line delivery of, you know, junior senator from Massachusetts, Kennedy.
Right.
Like, I saw some tweet that was like, it's like a name drop in a Marvel movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I think also, I don't know if it's camp, but every time Rami Malek showed up, I laughed. I'm sorry. I see him, and the fact that his character was the one that like got Strauss, I don't remember what the pronunciation was, even though that was a point in the film. The fact that it was his character / person to get him was just so funny to me.
Yeah, that is also something about both Barbie and Oppenheimer, is just the huge ass casts.
Yeah,
where it's like half of Hollywood.
Like the original hype for Barbenheimer was how it very much seemed like everyone in Hollywood would either be cast in Barbie or Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yep.
My mom was having, my parents saw Barbie the other night, and first of all, the real highlight is that she found that she has Alan. She pulled out Alan.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
But yeah, she was telling me how much fun she was having with the cast. She was like, oh my god, this person's in it, and this person's in it.
Yeah. The entire also some
today's
topic
Fabiola. Also
oh yeah,
today's topic also has very everyone is here vibes.
Yeah,
absolutely. That was just what I was about to say.
Well, how do we do this? Do we introduce our topic, or do we introduce our guest first? Because you've been a guest before. We have our first returning guest.
Yay! Yes, I have. Is it possible for me to be introduced and then I can introduce the topic of discussion?
Yes.
Discussion?
That's
yes.
A great way. So, welcome to It's Giving Camp. Today on the podcast, we have back our dear friend, Amparo.
Hi, everyone. Hi, podcast listeners. My name is Amparo. I am a good friend to Saffron and Fabiola. If you're a real fan, you'll remember my iconic episode where I talked about Star Trek. But today, for this episode, I have the honor to look back upon one of my favorite film series of my childhood and my adulthood. I am, of course, talking about Robert Rodriguez's iconic, incredibly camp series of films titled Spy Kids.
Yes. I'm so glad that you brought this topic to us, because I don't think I wouldn't have thought of it without you, because I was like, oh, it's Spy Kids. Like, that's a beloved franchise from childhood. But it truly, how it can place itself within the camp, like, conversation is so interesting and fun.
I have something crazy to admit. As a child, I did not like Robert Rodriguez's movies. Like, I did not like them. And now I have the opposite of nostalgia where I'm like, I can't bring myself to truly really like Spy Kids because I'm like, I did not like this as a kid.
I understand.
Wow.
I understand that feeling. I can't imagine feeling it towards Spy Kids, but I could understand the feeling. Did you also feel this way about Shark Boy and Lava Girl?
I liked less Shark Boy and Lava Girl. I liked it less than the Spy Kids movies that I already did not like.
What else is his filmography beside? Because that's all I know of the Spy Kids and Shark Boy and Lava Girl.
So he has a really wide filmography. He's like besties with Quentin Tarantino. So he's done a lot of stuff in conjunction with him, but he first was known for this film called Mariachi, which he made on like a super low budget, and it became very popular. And from there he's done From Dusk Till Dawn, I think might be his most
That
famous
one
film.
I might like. That one I might like.
Uh, yeah. And he did the Machete films, as we will discuss.
And the Machete trailer for the Grindhouse double feature with Tarantino.
Yeah. I think he also did Sin City, which is that one that's
I think
all in
so.
black and white, but like weird digital. I haven't seen it.
So
He also did the Book of Boba Fett, another unfortunate
No!
mark on his filmography to me.
Oh, I was gonna say before you said Book of Boba Fett, I'm like that sounds like a very genre heavy kind of a very like stylistic maybe parodying of other like genre staples in his filmography.
Yeah, and I think definitely in his early work, now that you said Book of Boba Fett, that's crazy. I didn't know that. I have not kept up with his film work past Spy Kids and Shark Boy and Lava Girl. I'm not sure how much involvement he has in the reboot that has been announced that I will probably mention later.
Yeah. That I think I didn't see the reboot announcement until after we had decided to do this topic, and I'm very curious how that's gonna happen.
I think at some point there was a fourth Spy Kids movie, but that one has been kind of forgotten.
Yeah, I don't count it in my Spy Kids canon because it came out way after the first three, and I don't know. I don't buy it. There's also an animated series apparently that I also have not seen, but yeah, I think today I'll probably stick to discussing the first three films with a heavy focus on the first one because that's the one I asked you guys to watch. On top of that, a scene from the third one, which is the most a truly iconic scene of every single character from the Spy Kids franchise teaming up to defeat the villain of the third film.
It literally is a better...
Which they can only see with 3D glasses on.
Yes.
You have to put your 3D glasses on.
Can I say that's a better scene than Avengers Assembles? Like in terms of like actually bringing all these characters together, more iconic than the Avengers.
Yeah, and Robert Rodriguez talked about how most of the people were all filmed separately, kind of a la Marvel, but it's just so good.
There's also more justification to do that than Marvel because Marvel has way more money.
Yeah. So I think something I don't know, should we talk about Kinder Camp first, or should we talk about the budget, technology, all that?
Let's give a very brief synopsis of what the Spy Kids films are about, if somehow... I mean, it's a very generational thing, and like our parents who...
It's iconic to us.
It. But yeah, like
very
different... what are the Spy Kids films about for people who've not ever seen them?
All right. May I give a summary?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So the Spy Kids films follow the lives and adventures of Carmen and Junie Cortez, who in the first film are the unassuming children of Gregorio and Ingrid Cortez, who are secretly super spies. In the first film, their parents are kidnapped by this villain named Floop, played by Alan Cumming, who is a children's show. Incredible casting. He is a children's show host who is also an evil inventor that lives in a cartoon castle. So Junie and Carmen have to use their smarts and abilities to go rescue their spy parents by becoming spy kids. And there's more stuff going on, but that's the basis of it. And in the sequel films, they are already established. Carmen and Junie, they're still kids, but they're also spies. They are established spies, and the second film is kind of a redemption film where Junie's name gets slandered and he has to redeem himself. And the third one is they go in a video game. I think it's interesting because the first one is very much a satire of the spy film, and while the other two are also satires of the spy film, I think the second one takes a lot from more Indiana Jones adventure type films, and then the third one is very much The Matrix.
Yeah.
Especially with Elijah Wood playing the guy who is just Neo. So yeah.
Also, Sylvester Stallone is there.
Yes.
Everyone is in these movies somehow.
Wildest casting of...
Yeah.
We watched a Fabiola.
And also people who are not yet famous, like Selena Gomez is in the third one.
Yeah.
Emily Osment is in the second one.
Yeah, you sent us a commentary video where they had a joke where Spy Kids 3 is banned in any 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. What's that game? 6 degrees?
The 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah, 6 degrees of separation.
It's a dirty move to mention the Spy Kids movies.
Yes, completely. Oh, I was going to say something. Oh yeah, I was joking with a friend that if there was a Spy Kids drinking game, you would have to take a drink every time an A-list celebrity shows up. So, yeah.
George Clooney!
Devlin, his character name.
I also love that he just has that black bar. He's just able to remove it and put it back.
Yep. It's so funny.
The camp of this film, to me, is how fake everything is.
Yeah. Also considering how a good 70% of this movie is just gadgets.
Yeah.
This movie is wild plot and also showing you fun gadgets. That's it.
Yeah, I would agree. Every time I watch this movie, I'm like, it would have been so fun to be a prop designer or a production designer on these films. Because even though it's very reliant on green screen, there's still so much tangibleness to it, which I think is so instrumental. I watch these films and I'm like, Robert Rodriguez understood children and what children want to see in the movie, except for you, Fabiola, obviously.
It is interesting that it is a kids film because it's so bright and colorful and adventurous, but it also, like, the plot of the first film did freak me out a little when I saw it, like the sequence where because
as a child it freaked me out.
Yeah,
it's one of the reasons I didn't like it.
Because part of the plot is that these secret agents have been kidnapped and they're turned into these weird monster things.
Yep.
And the sequence where they are revealed, like, oh, play the theme song backwards, and they're crying for help.
Yeah, they're saying, Floop is a madman, help us, save us. Floop is a madman, help us, save us.
It freaked me out as a kid. I was like, wait, the fun shows that I'm watching might be, like, kidnapped, adults screaming for help.
Agents? Oh, as a kid, I was eating it up. I was like, this is awesome. Yeah, I think part of why the first film, I will say specifically the first film works, is because it is a silly movie. The plot is crazy, but it is still filmed with a certain maturity that I don't think many filmmakers afford to their audience when they are making a children's film. I think there's some like really incredible shot composition. There's a lot of scenes that are like, I love any scene that's just adults talking with no children in sight. It makes me laugh so hard watching it now, but I don't know. And I think the plot gets pretty complicated to not a crazy extent, but I don't know. I feel like it's not trying to dumb itself down for kids, even though it is ultimately silly. And I think this, like, the fact that it takes itself seriously really adds to the camp value, because you have, like, Antonio Banderas and Carla Gugino, is that how you pronounce her name? Having, like, this like, listening to Alan Cummings' villainous monologue and, like, staring daggers at him, but they're also eating goop. Like, it's that contrast I just love.
Yeah, I'll admit, I took very few notes when rewatching this film because it has such a nostalgic value to me that I can't actually think of many things to, like, criticize about it or even to really, like, dig deep on, because it's just, I just was having so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah, no, to start, it was a little bit of a struggle for me to take notes because I was just, all of my notes were like, I love this, yay!
Maybe, what notes were you taking, Fabiola, as someone who used to hate it?
I didn't take many. Like, the notes that I have are Y2K, the house, and failed deception. That's the total of my notes.
What specifically, why about the Y2K-ness stood out to you?
Like the production design and, like, specifically also the look of Carla Gugino's character, the mom.
Yeah.
Like, her whole vibe was very Y2K mother. And also the quality of the effects are, like, they're charming. They're bad in a charming way that I don't think a lot of CGI has.
I think
I would agree.
This, we also watched and discussed this
That's
season.
next week's episode.
Oh, what? Wait,
That's after this one. That's after this one. Look at the schedule.
Spoilers.
Okay. Well, then I'll just say that you can bleep that.
I will remove that.
But there's an episode this season of another movie that pairs so well with Spy Kids.
I was looking at the schedule and was like, this is so wild.
I think something I like about the film is that the first 10 minutes, it takes you through every, like, spy movie trope when Ingrid is telling Carmen and Junie the spy romance story. And so that's the adult plot. And then we get to see the children go through their own spy story. And we can see, and the adults, like Gregorio and Ingrid, cannot go through this plot. They are unsuccessful. So the kids have to be the ones to take you through it, because they can interact in this, like, child's world, which is mostly Floop's castle.
That's
also their house is really cool. Like, my one note of the house, like, their house is wild and so big, and it also has spy technology within it.
I love Ingrid's computer that looks like a bunch of like makeup laid out.
It looks like a vanity, but it's actually a computer.
But the dad gets an actual computer, but the mom has makeup.
But that's the kind of shit that I'm like, I want that. I love how big and plastic those buttons look.
And she just hits them randomly and, like, information comes up. Yeah, it's so good. I think I love the setting for Spy Kids, the first one, outside of Floop's castle, like, in their hometown and in the city that they go to, because it is so inherently, like, a city in Latin America, and it is never, like, brought to attention or anything like that. It just exists, and I think that that's kind of a rare thing, especially in children's movies, which I really like, and I enjoy the lack of specificity with it. in the other two films, it kind of gets bogged down by like, oh, they're working for the U.S. government and the president and all of that. But in this one, it's kind of, there's some hints towards it, but they never, it kind of flourishes in that like, oh, where are they? Like, they're in a Hispanic environment, and obviously like Antonio Banderas, despite being a Spaniard, is playing like a Latino character, and the kids are Latino as well. I just really like that, and you see that through Robert Rodriguez's filmography a lot, I would say.
Yeah, they are really like kind of out of space and out of time in a sense, even if the graphics and fashion feel very like Y2K. That's not at all like really part of the plot. And it's even like the main conflict of these robot kids that like Floop or rather really Minion are making. It's kind of just like, it's a very generic-y spy conflict that where instead of like, you know, so many Bond films have villains that feel very like coded to specific world conflicts that are very situated in a specific time when that film is being made. This is a film where it's just like, oh yeah, these robot kids will like infiltrate world governments, but it's like not for a specific political motivation. It's not for like a specific, you know, even like president that they're trying to manipulate. It's
centered specifically for something that kids will understand, which is children's programming.
Yeah. Yep. And I also love Floop as this antagonist. I think he is so much fun because
he's so good.
His conflict is not actually about whether he wants to be evil or not. He just wants to make a good TV show.
He wants to be the #1 TV show in the network, and he's currently #2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love also this watch through. It really hit home for me how, and this isn't really a thing that gets brought up in the other two movies, but like Gregorio does look down on Junie for liking this show, which is like a show about accepting your feelings and love, and he's like a sensitive little boy, and that paired with, I guess, the queer coding of Floop, partially because he's played by Alan Cumming, partially because of like everything else. I think it pairs very well, and their like conversation in the virtual room, even though it's campy as hell with like Alan Cumming's like floating face coming at him. And I think it's very sweet in a way that like it teaches Junie to accept that he is sensitive, but that doesn't make him weak or scared.
Well, and Carmen even gives us like lays that out in a speech to him, being like, no, you're the one who saved the day because you had the like compassion to talk to these people and also the smarts to like, you know, be able to use the right equipment or whatever. I don't remember all the specifics that she says, but like it's earnest in a way I think only children's programming can be, where the message is like, you know, believe in yourself, you're enough, and it doesn't feel cynical. It feels like so like wholehearted and earned, even in like the way the kind of plot lays out, I think.
Yeah, definitely, I would agree with that. I think it has very simple theming, which I think is very effective, because the big theme is family, which is perfect for a family movie. And the theme continues to be family all throughout the other movies. But it works, I'd say.
What does it need, Minion?
I don't...
My show! It needs something. That thing that will take it to #1. Oh, I can feel it, but I can't think straight enough to figure it out.
Loop, you're spending too much time on this program when you should be more concerned with our grand diabolical plan.
Syndication?
The army of robot children, sir.
This hardware is getting in the way of my creative abilities.
You said you wanted to... I know you kind of did some research on the green screen and special effects in the movie.
Specifically the third one. That one's like 90% green screen.
Yes, I would say. The first one still uses a lot of practical sets, but by the third one, it is crazy green screen going on. I think the third one also really plays to 3D technology with the final fight scene having you put on the 3D glasses, and also throughout the entire film, like characters will like reach towards the camera, or like a CGI like creature will like jump into your face and all that, and it's very much playing towards the expectation that someone will be watching this with the 3D glasses, which
and
I
like
think
specifically kids, like it's made for kids to like want to reach out to things and grab things.
Yes, absolutely.
I always liked that the 3D like element was integrated into the plot. I thought that was really cool, and I think that and Avatar are the two films that I can think of where I'm like, oh, the 3D feels earned here.
Yeah. But I think there's definitely such a huge camp value to watch a film so passionately dedicated to a technology that isn't really used anymore for the filmmaking experience. So it's kind of like watching a relic, and you can kind of laugh at how like they thought they were being so cool.
Yeah, it really reminded me of, I'm blanking on his name, but there was this one guy in the 50s who was a horror movie producer, and they all had these gimmicks. Like some theaters had a skeleton come in the ceiling when like a skeleton popped up in the movie, and it would freak people out in the theater. Like it felt very throwbacky, but in a modern way. And also the 3D, like not the 3D, but like the CGI in the third one, it looks so crazy and so bad that it loops around into being good. Like it's very naive camp in that sense.
Yes. And it almost, at this point, dare I say, there's artistic merit to the terrible CGI, because it is going for a style over trying to be as realistic as possible. And it sometimes looks really ugly, but sometimes it's fun. And as a kid, I thought that shit looked so real.
Well, the title of that one reaction video was something like, "This is the ugliest and greatest movie."
Yeah, it really doesn't age at all to me, because it feels so... I'm struggling to find a word other than diegetic. Like, okay, like,
I mean, it technically is. In the third one, they are in a video game, so there is like an in-universe excuse for why it looks like that.
Yeah, and
so
also,
it technically is diegetic.
And in the first movie, like, it's Floop's Castle is like this children's programming. Like, it doesn't feel like it's out of place at all, because the visuals work with the tone and setting of the film, which, unlike so much modern CGI, I feel like so much modern CGI or like de-aging effects or like, certain like green screen or blue screen like stuff, it feels like they're trying to look as realistic as possible, which when that tech is gonna like age, which is gonna age within a couple of years because things are, increasing so like improving so rapidly, like it's no longer going to look realistic. So if you don't seek out, like if you don't start out trying to look realistic, then you're not going to fail, I guess.
Yeah. And since Rodriguez was working with a constricted budget and he taught himself CGI and all those visual effects so he could be the one who did them for his films, I'm assuming he had a team, but he taught himself. He was he credits himself as being the editor for the Spy Kids films, on top of being writer, director, DP, production designer, composer. Like, he did everything in these films, I'm telling you, at least the first one. He did everything. He is a true auteur for those.
Danny Elfman also helped do the score.
Oh, okay.
I remember seeing that in the credits, and that should not be a surprise because the score
is very Danny Elfman. Yeah,
Yeah.
It feels very similar to the Spider-Man score, and which makes sense because Sam Raimi and Robert Rodriguez kind of take up similar. They're in the same realm in my brain.
Yeah, a lot of the camera work is really similar. One of the things that I did really like about this movie was the camera work and specific editing choices. And I'm like, wow, that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's your favorite shot or like camera moment?
I like the parts where it kind of looked like the frame rate was a larger number. Like when things suddenly got really sped up or something.
I don't know if I can think of when that happens. I really like the first...
I think one of the moments is when like Carmen and Junie are in, like hanging from the ceiling of the castle, but they're inside and they're going up and down.
Yes. Yes, I know what you're talking about. I think I really love the first shot of the film, which is like the credits, the opening credits fade, and it's like a sunset, and then it zooms in to Carmen at the windowsill. I thought it's a really nice shot there. I love the four shot, or like the group shot of the family when they're about to face off the robot children right before Machete bursts through the window. Oh, I love this. Sorry, I love this movie.
You sent the image of the chair.
Yeah,
the double
that
chair
is really cool.
tied to, and to me, that's like what stands out into my mind is also like the way that like the cinematography complements the architecture of the set design.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's a movie that had a lot of care put into it, because sometimes you watch a children's film, specifically a live action one, and you can really tell like there's not a lot of effort put in because it's for kids. But in this one, at least in this first one, you can tell that they really cared, because there's just so many small moments and attention to detail that I really appreciate. And I don't know, I am definitely looking at this film with crazy nostalgia lenses. This is still on my top 4 favorite films on my Letterboxd. Like, I am very biased towards this film, but every time I watch it, I'm charmed and I notice new things, and I'm like, wow, they didn't have to like add in this detail, but they did, and it was funny or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
Which I like. And I think I just watched the second one, and the second one is good too, but it's really not the same, I would say.
Well, the second one, you have to mention at least because it has the famous line.
Yeah.
Steve Buscemi. Wait, I want to get the quote perfect. I know I was quoting it like crazy, quoting the film like crazy earlier, but...
I need to send you this one Smosh bit where one of the guys improved a song about Steve Buscemi's character, and it was such a good song.
Oh my gosh, I really want to watch that. All right, here's the quote. Do you think God stays in heaven because he too lives in fear of what he's created here on earth?
What?
In Spy Kids.
What a anger line. It's yeah. I know, like, we didn't watch it for this episode, but all of the like little animal puns that are like made real in Spy Kids 2 was my favorite freaking thing.
Just was, like, the existence of that line in the Spy Kids franchise's camp.
Yes, absolutely. the line and the fact that it's delivered by Steve Buscemi playing a disgraced scientist. Or honestly, I don't even know if he counts as disgraced. He's just a crazy guy.
Yeah. That film, it's, what can I say except it's just there's if I'm gonna try to like rationalize it or like add extra meaning to that line in the Spy Kids franchise, I think what it means is that it's what we've already been saying of like how much care is put into these films, that it's taken seriously. Because the line is so good, not because it's like it's not like a Riverdale line where you're like, what, you're trying to wrap your head around it and it just feels crazy. It's a really thoughtful philosophical line, which you can only really write if you're like actually interested in what these characters like psychologies are, even though it's a silly like adventure film.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think and that care and passion and love for the Spy Kids franchise is what makes it so camp. Because if they had phoned it in a little bit or like been a little bit more ironic about it, it wouldn't have been as good.
Yeah.
It really wouldn't have. And it wouldn't be camp. It would just be a stupid kids movie, which I think is what Shark Boy and Lava Girl is. Even though I think that movie's also very campy, I don't think that it's on the level of Spy Kids, because Robert Rodriguez was like, oh, I'm just making this movie for my kids, and this is their idea. While Spy Kids was, at least the first one, was like all him.
Yeah.
I
also think there's something about like the playing with genre conventions that also elevates Spy Kids a bit more.
Yeah,
because,
like the general conceit of it is basically things being what they're not. Like with the kids specifically, usually kids aren't spies, that they are here, and also that extends to, like, as we will discuss in the next episode, a lot of the fun gadgets are basically things being what they're not.
The wedding ring. Yeah. The wedding ring that is a laser weapon thing. I don't know. It burns through rope, so.
Yep.
And one of the chains that they put the parents in looks literally like Play-Doh.
Yeah. I know we also said like earlier about like
the captured spies, turned mutant children's programming characters.
Yeah. Also, their uncle who's not actually their uncle.
Yeah.
Yeah, played by Cheech of Cheech and Chong.
Yeah. Literally everyone is in these movies.
Yeah. I really appreciate that. I feel like anyone else would have Cheech from Cheech and Chong and do like a reference to it, but there is zero reference to it.
No.
He's Uncle Felix. I'm not your uncle.
Yeah. And then of course their actual uncle, Machete, and how that gets into
an extended universe.
Yes. Let's get into the inherent camp of the Spy Kids extended universe. So should I do a quick little summary?
Yeah, go off. Go.
Okay. So the character of Machete or Machete was made for the Spy Kids film, and Robert Rodriguez casted Danny Trejo to play him, and
Campman.
Yes, yes, incredibly so. And he is their Carmen and Junie's uncle, Gregorio's brother, who is estranged from the family and is a genius spy gadget inventor. And he's one of those characters that's like grumpy on the outside, but he's secretly a softie, and he loves his family. And he's a great character. I love him. So did Robert Rodriguez. And for the Grindhouse double feature film project that he had with Quentin Tarantino, one of the fake trailers in that, I'm not sure what to call it, a project or double feature. One of the fake trailers in it was for a film called Machete, starring Danny Trejo as Machete, but as
and
this
Cheech
character
Marin is also in that trailer.
Yes, he is. He is a priest with guns, but it is kind of the same character, but he is like a hyper violent assassin, and it's a trailer with a lot of blood, dismemberment, guns, sex, all of that, kind of very much not family friendly. And then he and Quentin loved this trailer so much that they made a couple films out of it called Machete and Machete Kills, which are also incredibly violent film in the exploitation genre. So
but it's the same character?
The same character. I don't think there's any. I don't know, but I don't think there's any mention of the Cortezes.
I'm pretty sure Alex Vega, who plays Carmen, is in one of them, but I don't think she's playing Carmen.
Right. No, you're so right. I remember there were those early on, like maybe 2012. They'd be like, "This is Carmen from Spy Kids now. Are you shocked?" Because she was like sexy in that movie, you know. So yeah, I think that is so funny that this character from a very child-friendly family film got his own hyper-violent spin-offs that connect the Spy Kids universe with the Quentin Tarantino extended universe.
He knows the score.
Where are my wife and daughter?
He gets the women. And he kills the bad guys.
Oh, shit. You knew that a Mexican day laborer is a goddamn federale!
But they soon realize
He's coming after us.
they just fucked with the wrong Mexican.
That is so... I hadn't realized that until you'd verbalized it. That really... that connection makes it all like within the same
and it also
universe.
Furthers my weird reading of how the Spy Kids movies are basically exploitation films for kids. Because standard exploitation films tend to cater to what's entertaining to adults, but these are specifically made with thoughts of what would kids find fun, what would kids like to watch. Yeah. And that is fun colors and slimes and fun gadgets and also 3D stuff that you will want to grab onto.
And cute character designs or weird twisted character designs that could sell merch, presumably.
Yeah, it is targeting the base desires of a child. I also really want to mention the way that Spy Kids remains in the general consciousness of our generation. Because if you mention Spy Kids to any normal person, I would say there's an 80%
Our generation
chance.
is not normal people.
Sorry, I mean someone of our generation, like a normal person of our generation. If you mention, there is an 80% chance they will be like, those thumb things freaked me out when I was a kid. That is always the reaction. And I think that's crazy because so many children were affected by the thumbs, which to me are so iconic to the Spy Kids franchise. And
to me was one of the reasons I did not like this movie.
I think they're cute. They never bothered me.
They're scary.
They're a little scary. I think the campiest thing about them was when Carmen accidentally goes into the rooms that's like a factory that makes them. There's a sexy nurse thumb that's like a painted
she has
nail.
Long red nails.
Yeah, in a little nurse outfit with boobs. I think that is very camp. And in the room that Carmen crashes into, if you look, I sent a screenshot of it.
Yeah.
But if you look closely in the backgrounds, there's like hand painted family portraits of the thumbs.
That's so, it's so, I wish that they were alive is the thing. Because in my memory that they were also, like, my memory is that they were also, like, these, like, weird clone things. But they're robots. I just wish they were, like...
Oh, are they robots?
Yeah!
Yeah.
They're robots. Because that's what...
They're being made in a factory, but they also have family portraits.
Yeah. Oh, I thought they were... I know that they're assembled, but I just kind of assumed that they were also real.
No, I think they're robots. But, I mean, maybe
Assembled
they have
things are
sentience.
real.
They have family.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just AI.
Yeah.
That probably makes people feel less confident about AI as if it was all just thumbs.
Thumbs, awesome. In the first film, some of the time the thumbs are CGI, and some of the times it's a guy in a suit, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm assuming, because
The scenes where they're, like, in all black, those are guys in suits. Because they're in all black.
Yeah. And Carmen crashes into, like, a pile of discarded thumb parts, which I'm assuming were just leftover costumes. Or, like, the costumes. By the second film, they've gone full CGI with the thumbs. There's never a shot where it's a guy in a suit, which I think is sad.
Yeah.
But it makes sense. The second film also has skeletons in it, and they are also CGI, and they look really bad, but it's very Jason and the Argonauts vibes.
That's my memory of it, is that those, like, skeletons look exactly the same in the two very different, like, eras.
Yeah. So I think it's very fun that a children's, and it can't be that a children's film is perhaps referencing that film and kind of shows, I don't know, I like when a director makes a reference that isn't, bad. Sorry, that's a...
What bad references are you thinking of, Amparo?
Few come to mind.
But yeah, it's like a reference that isn't super obvious and isn't, like, necessary for an understanding of the film. It's just kind of a fun little visual nod for people who get it will get it.
It's
Absolutely.
It's for cinephiles.
Yep. So, did you guys watch the video on the filming techniques for Spy Kids 3? Because that was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've watched it twice now because about a week ago it was sent around one of the group chats I'm in grad school about, look, here's this fun little thing that Robert Rodriguez did that's really useful for smaller independent projects.
Yeah, totally. I think the fact that he finds a way to do creative and compelling camera movement with the restrictions of a green screen stage just shows, like, you can do it.
Like, it's a small green screen stage. Like, that's a tiny box.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, like, obviously CGI, like, opens the door, or CGI or green screen, all of that opens so many doors, but it's also, it's a tiny soundstage. It's super restrictive, but he shows that even with those restrictions, he can make it feel cinematic or the best approximation of it, which is something that, like, nowadays with films that are shot on, like, these big blue screen sound stages, they keep that camera still, or they do like completely digital, like, drone shot things.
I remember seeing people talk about how, like using the volume and stuff, and it just feels so, like, stationary, and it is really, like, I don't know, it kind of blows my mind how inventive some of the, these behind the scenes choices were for using green screen, of just like, oh, okay, well, I want to get this kind of shot, or I want there to be this kind of motion, so let's just, like, buy a treadmill, or, like, let's just, like, move the camera around. And it's like, it really is kind of something where, I don't know, like, it seemed like Robert Rodriguez is like, I'm not gonna let this limit me at all. In fact, like, he, in the little video said, it's like, oh, this shows how, like, creative we can be, and how, how, like, it's actually, like, so expansive, which I think I don't know, somehow down the line people have like forgotten how to do that, or maybe it was always a unique case.
Yeah. I feel like on any shoot, there's always going to be like people finding creative solutions to problems. But when you have a film with, at least Rodriguez's philosophy is like, if you had an unlimited budget, you don't even have to worry about finding a creative solution. You just do it. And he actually denied a higher budget for Spy Kids 2 because he was like, no, that'll make the movie worse.
Yeah.
He said that in an interview, which I think is a very interesting philosophy.
Yeah, because it's what's the saying that like something breeds innovation, like what's difficulty or hardship breeds innovation. Like it also just like watching that behind the scenes clip, it surprised me truly how much was green screen. I'm like,
I mean, most of that was the third movie, and the third movie is like 90% green screen.
I know, but like it shouldn't surprise me, but like it really just like it doesn't, because it doesn't look bad is the thing. It's like, even if it's all like just generated and created, it's special effects, it looks good, and also it doesn't look like, I don't know, I'm at a loss for words. Just kind of blows my mind that I'm like, wow, you did this, and it looks fun, and it looks like it's visually interesting.
Yeah. I think there is one scene in Spy Kids 3 where they're surfing on the lava and they get engulfed in the lava, and they're like going under this orange lava water, and there's bubbles. And I remember on my last watch of that film, in the bubbles, they are like 8-bit bubble. They're like pixelated. You can see the pixels in that. And if you don't notice it, it's just like a shitty bubbles effect. But it's like all the CGI is simply so crappy, and the effects are so crappy at some points, but it just comes together to create such an aesthetic that is truly a feast for the eyes, I would say. A tasty feast? Maybe not.
I mean, it's the gloop that they're eating in Floop's castle is what the Spy Kids franchise would be as food.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Perhaps if you're a little bit more critical, it is the kind of gross food that they eat at Machete's home. You know, where Karma's like, where Machete's like, pass the pig intestines.
Yeah.
And it's like this bowl that's like overflowing with like raw pig intestines.
That scene is so strange. I immediately forgot about it because it was like, I don't know, there's no explanation for this, but I guess that's...
Sorry, could you repeat what you said?
Oh, just that, like, why is there a bowl of pig intestines?
Yeah, I think it's
because
just
it's Machete.
Yeah, because it's Machete, and he's kind of a weird guy, and it's like he's kind of like a gross, gruff personality guy, I would say. Yeah. Could I read a quote from Robert Rodriguez?
Yes.
From an interview he did promoting Spy Kids 2 about like the production design of that film. So he said, "I'm the production designer and the DP. So in Spy Kids 2, there's a big underground layer in a volcano, and when Steve Buscemi walks out, behind him, there are all these stalactite-type rocks. There's only 3 rocks, and they're on wheels. So whenever he's standing looking at the volcano, I roll those rocks behind him and light them. And then when I shoot over this way, I roll them over there. If you look close, it's the same 3 rocks, just lit differently. Now, no production designer would ever allow the director to show up in the lair and see 3 rocks. He would have wanted 50 rocks. But knowing what I can do, it'll look like 50 rocks in the end."
Oh, that's incredible. Because, okay, it's incredible because not only does that mean he has the skill to know how to light it in different ways so that it, like, looks consistent depending, on where the character is supposed to be standing. That also means it shows the kind of like, I guess, cost efficiencies of being your own production designer as a director, because you don't have to impress anyone. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of how the big bridge in Dragonstone and House of the Dragon is also reused in the scene where Rhaenyra is sending off her two boys. Like, that is the same bridge, but it does not look like it's the same bridge.
Yeah. I think we see across all productions, they're obvious. I just making a new thing every time when you have old things you can put paint on is it's just so fascinating. And I think there is such a good record of how the Spy Kids films were made, because of like behind the scenes footage and a lot of interviews and the 10-minute film school, that it becomes so fascinating. And especially because these things were like put on DVDs, like the behind the scenes stuff was put on DVDs marketed for children, it's very incredibly accessible. Like, I don't remember watching them from Spy Kids, but I remember watching the behind the scenes for Shark Boy and Lava Girl and being like, whoa, that's crazy. So yeah, I feel like it could instill a love and passion for filmmaking for children.
Yeah, like, you can't accuse these movies of not having a style.
So true.
Like, the look of them is so specific, and also, like, so specific to these Robert Rodriguez children's films, but also very specific to the early 2000s. Like, no films before and after this look quite like these, except maybe Speed Racer.
Yes.
Oh,
I would agree with Speed Racer. I was watching clips from the third one, and the big race in the third movie really feels like the Speed Racer film. Yeah. And that's why I watched Modern Girls' Kinder Camp video, and I feel like Spy Kids does fall into the genre, but at the same time it feels different.
Yeah.
Would either of you care to comment?
I'll admit, I
feel like...
Oh, you go, Fabiola.
Yeah, one of the big points of that video is of how these films also comment in a pretty accessible way on different aspects of society, and I don't feel like this one, or at least the Spy Kids movies as a whole, are doing that exactly.
Yeah,
I would agree.
Yeah, that was also what I was going to say. I watched that video for when we watched the Brady Bunch film for our first episode of the season, and I think that there's also like there is something about like remixing old IP into like kind of a new kind of reboot, and then also making brand new like original characters, but within like genre conventions or things that are both talked about in the Kinder Camp essay. But I think that there is a difference between those two kinds of films, because I think that there is a bit more of a critique, and there are more layers to rebooting existing IP.
Yeah, it's more transformative.
Yeah. Where with genre, it's like you can play with the conventions, but there's only like so far that you can go with like in terms of like how much is it. I think the difference is also that like between parody and like loving reinterpretations of a genre, and that's something that like it's different it's transformative in different ways, you know. And I think that there is, say, like, I don't know, like this was not at all mentioned in the Modern Girls video, but like say something like Austin Powers and like kind of a parody of a genre can be doing certain things and like making points that are going to be different than Spy Kids. Spy Kids is like, we're making a spy movie, but for kids, you know, and it's a very specific kind of like it's going to be a very like specific kind of message because it's for a very specific kind of audience. And the visuals and how those are going to transform because of I guess it's not really the transformation doesn't come from the genre, but from the intended audience, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if it weren't for kids, then it would be like so many other spy movies.
Yeah. I would say it's interesting because I feel like as the franchise moves forward, it stops being as much like they're not really spies. Like they just go on adventures. You know, it's like they're not like gathering intelligence.
Yeah.
Or doing any other spy thing. Like they don't even wear disguises ever.
Oh, yeah.
You
But
know,
in the first one, I love this sequence where they land into a shopping center that they change clothes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And none of the adults notice them, but the kids in those scenes do.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point.
In the second film, Junie has a sort of, I don't know if I would say Bond and Bond girl-esque romance with the president's daughter.
Oh, yeah.
Which
Played by Taylor Momsen.
Yes? Oh
The
my
Taylor
gosh.
Momsen.
Which I think is also kind of falls into the spy genre, like this romance, much more than his iconic romance with the video game girl in Spy Kids 3, which was heartbreaking.
He
to
did
me
not
as a
get
child.
her email.
I didn't even get her email address. Oh, how iconic. But yes, as the film series goes on, it becomes less and less a genre parody / reference to spy movies. I would say that the third one even is more of a detective film because it is very much a noir at the start, with Junie kind of monologuing over the events that are happening to him and him being like jaded in a very
10-year-old.
Yes, exactly. It's hilarious. And then trying to solve the mystery by going into the video game.
That is one thing that I think makes me like Spy Kids 3 less, is the fact it's not about the siblings. Like, there is their dynamic, but that's not the central, like, relationship at the film. And to me, one thing that I really like about this first Spy Kids is that it's very much this, like, sibling relationship. And I think it's, you know, it's very well written in that sense of like, yep, this feels like, you know, an older sibling, younger sibling relationship in the both the insults and then also the pep talk.
Yeah. In the third one, Carmen doesn't show up until halfway through.
Yeah.
I would agree with that because as a kid, I remember I loved Carmen. Carmen was my favorite character by far. So in the third one, it was kind of a slog until you got to Carmen with her cool arm.
Yeah. I think in this conversation, I've pieced together what bugs me about the announced Spy Kids reboot, remake, requel, whatever they're doing. Has the plot even been announced? Do we know what it's?
Yes. Let me look it up real quick so I can read it. It sounds similar to Spy Kids 3, but the film is called Spy Kids Armageddon, and the premise is when the children of the world's greatest secret agents unwittingly help a powerful game developer unleash a computer virus that gives him control of all technology, they must become spies themselves to save their parents and the world.
So it's
that just
brand new characters?
Yes, it seems like. I think
that reminds me of War Games.
You're right. It feels just like a fusion of the plots of the second and third film because you have the technology aspect and the game developer aspect.
Yeah.
They only released one screenshot, but just from that you can tell there's not going to be a Floop's Castle.
Yeah. I think what bugs me is that who is it for?
Yeah.
Because if we were talking about how the Spy Kids and, you know, also Shark Boy and Lava Girl, like, these are for kids.
Yeah.
Why are you making this, like, reboot sequel? I'm gonna assume it's part of it is the nostalgia, and you're trying to get, like, but I don't know. It feels like, I mean, at a certain point, any reboot, it's like, you've lost the heart, you know, like, why are you making this? Which my hot take is I actually like the most recent Matrix movie, because I feel like it's questioning that very concept.
I would agree.
It's, yeah, like, why are you, who is it for? Who is it for? Is it actually, are they actually making this movie for kids, like the younger generation? Like, when we were, like, are they actually making it for fifth?
I would also question the audience of this film. Again, we know very little about it, and it might be for kids, but I doubt that it will be made with, like, the same, it feels silly to say passion, but passion that the first one was made with, because it like, why would you even do that at all? So yeah.
I wanted to get over my third note that I took, which was failed deception. So many of the characters in this movie are kind of failing at being spies and failing to pretend to be other people, and I do feel like that's what a lot of camp is in terms of camp value. It basically is, especially in terms of naive camp, it's basically about failing to completely immerse yourself in the situation. Even though a lot of camp is immersive, it's immersive in a really specific, not realistic way. It's about finding the lie and running with it.
Yeah.
I really like that point, that reading you've done there. I think part of that camp value also comes from the fact that Carmen and Junie, being children, can figure out this deception supposedly coming from super spies in, like, a very quick amount of time. They, like, figure out that something's wrong with the OSS, Mrs. Gridenko or whatever. They figure out
her.
Yeah, she was camp.
Yeah.
She was true camp.
Yeah.
Let's never have children. I love that line. Oh, so cartoonishly evil. But like, the way it makes it's very, yeah. That's the point I was making. I agree with what you said, Fabiola. It's a great reading.
Yeah. I don't have much more to say. I think you guys have brought so many great points.
Do we want to do, like, favorite gadgets or favorite moments? Most camp moments?
Yeah,
maybe.
That could be a way to kind of round out the end of the episode.
Yes. Does anyone have one ready?
I really like the moment where Robot Carmen spins around the playground spinny thing with Junie.
Oh yeah, the merry-go-round, isn't that?
I didn't know the name of it, but I know what it looks like.
Yeah.
I love the bubble gum that shocks people when they spit on it. Like, spit
that was
out.
the second choice.
And I specifically love that there's the moment where Carmen's like, the label says long lasting, but I don't trust packaging.
Yeah. So good.
I just love how it plays on the idea of, like, gum. It's like, oh, it's long lasting flavor, but no, long lasting effects because it's electricity. And I'm explaining the joke, but it delighted me.
Also, I love that it's this bright green. So many things in this movie are very bright early 2000s colors. Like, these are early 2000s colors that are basically only exist in the 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah. I think I really like the gag that they do where when Gregorio and Ingrid are sneaking through the castle and the floor falls away, Gregorio tries to jump through it and he hits and it's glass and he like he's like face gets smushed and he goes, very clever. And then when Carmen and Junie are going through the castle, the same thing happens, but Carmen jumps and falls through it.
Yeah.
Or is it Junie? One of them jumps and falls.
It was Carmen.
Oh, and she falls onto the thumb corpses. Yes. I thought it's a great play on expectations. I also love the acid crayon. Incredible.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of the gadgets are specifically kid stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
But made it technological and potentially dangerous, which is very camp.
Yeah. I think
I can't believe I forgot about the crayons.
Yeah, it's so good. The second film is really interesting because it brings even more like high-tech gadgets, but the whole point is that once they get to the island, none of those gadgets work anymore and they have to use their brains for it. But my favorite thing from that like film in terms of gadgets is that Junie has like a super technological watch that like can do everything, but it can't tell the time.
Oh yeah.
From which movie are like the iconic sunglasses with the billion little screens on them?
That's the second one where it goes like he puts them on and then it goes like duk, 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 duk. Yeah. And yeah, I'll just say the second film is very funny because the subplot with the parents is that Gregorio has to deal with his in-laws, which is something not relatable to children at all.
Yeah.
I said it before, I'll say it again. I love any scene in the Spy Kids franchise where it's all adults in a room talking to each other. All famous celebrities in a room talking to each other.
That also reminds me, I know we talked about it at the top, but the end of the Spy Kids with George Clooney is so funny to me because it's a reveal that absolutely went over my head as a kid. I was like, okay, yeah, there's this guy talking to them. Okay. But like,
every single actor goes over kids' heads.
As an adult watching it, I'm like, oh my god, it's George freaking Clooney. Like,
yeah,
that to me, the casting is camp. The casting,
yes,
of
absolutely.
These actors in
the
a
Terminator here.
Yeah.
Bill Paxton is in the later two of them.
Yeah.
Holland Taylor as their grandma. It's so funny. Oh, there's just so many things
also
I love.
in the next episode, another hint.
Oh, I wonder what it could be. So, yeah, let me see if I have any... here is a detail that I found in this watch through, is that the scenes that take place in Machete's shop have artificial film grain on top of them.
There were moments in this movie watching it where I was like, was this shot in film?
Yeah, it is all digital. Robert Rodriguez is a huge like advocate for digital. He's like one of those people that's like, it's inherently better. I will never shoot on film ever again. He's one of those guys. But the Machetes...
Ironic considering how close he is with Tarantino.
Yes. But yeah, I realized that this watch through, and I think it's such an interesting detail, and it really shows how he was truly trying to make I will call it a film. It is not a children's film, at least to me. So yeah.
It's a classic. It's iconic.
Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast and bringing this such
for
a
the
fun
second
film
time.
For us. Yeah.
For a second timer.
It feels good. And I'm so grateful that you guys invited me to come on the podcast again and let me talk about this film, which is I'll reiterate, one of my favorite films of all time, and so iconic to my childhood and adulthood.
Do you have anything you want to plug or share with the audience besides, I don't know, telling them to watch Spy Kids?
Watch Spy Kids. I don't really have anything to plug currently. Like, I'm on Twitter, but I don't really tweet, so Google me, find me on LinkedIn.
I feel like last year someone also said, maybe that was Fiona last year, also said to find her on LinkedIn.
Which is really funny because my LinkedIn sucks. Find me, oh, I don't know. Find me on Tumblr.
I feel like no
Pinterest.
one's LinkedIn is as good as they want it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
All right. Is that a wrap?
It's Giving Camp, hosted by Saffron Hefta-Gaub.
And Fabiola Liaño.
Our theme music is written by Harrison Lurie.
And the podcast is edited by Fabiola Liaño.
Follow us on Patreon. Support us on Patreon.
On Instagram, it's Giving Camp Pod. And on Twitter, it's Giving Camp Pod. Without it's. We're on Patreon at It's Giving Camp Pod, and shout out to our patron, Nicole Venito.